Sahana bhavatu sahanam punattu sahaviryam karavavahai tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Together we chant Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, verses 25 to the end. Verses 26 to 34.
Padram pushpam phalam toyam yo me bhaktya prayachati tadaham bhaktyupahritam ashnami prayatatmanaha yat karoshi yadashnasi yat juhoshi dadasi yat तपस्यसि कौन्तेय तत्कुरुष्व मदर्पणम् शुभाशुभफलैरेवम् मोक्ष्यसे कर्मबन्धनैः सन्न्यासयोगयुक्तात्मा विमुक्तो मामुपैष्यसि समोऽहं सर्वभूतेषु न मे द्वेष्योऽस्ति न प्रियः ये भजन्ति तु मां भक्त्या मयि ते तेषु चाप्यहम् अपि चेत् सुदुराचारः भजते मामनन्यभाक् साधुरेव समन्तव्यः सम्यग् व्यवसितो हि सः क्षिप्रं भवति धर्मात्मा शश्वच्छान्तिं निगच्छति कौन्तेय प्रतिजानीहि न मे भक्तः प्रणश्यति मां हि पार्थव्यपाश्रित्य येऽपि स्युः पापयोनयः स्त्रियो वैश्यास्तथा शूद्राः तेऽपि यान्ति परां गतिम् किं पुनर्ब्राह्मणाः पुण्याः भक्ता राजर्षयस्तथा अनित्यमसुखं लोकम् इमं प्राप्य भजस्व माम् मन्मना भव मद्भक्तः मद्याजी मां नमस्कुरु मामे वैष्यसि युक्त्वैवम् आत्मानं मत्परायणः
Is there anyone new in class today? Anyone new?
I'm new.
Okay, Pranay. First time, Pranay, or any Gita class or this one?
First time for any class, ma'am. Any Gita class.
Oh, wonderful. Mayank, are you also new?
Yes, ma'am. I'm also new.
First time Gita class or
Yes,
first time this Gita class?
This is my first Gita class, ma'am.
Okay, wonderful. The nice thing about being completely new is nothing to erase. Otherwise, lots to erase. Half the job is only in erasing all the wrong concepts, and very little of the job is putting any right concepts in. So nice. Anyone else is new in today's class? Okay, all the other names look like people I have seen before. Okay, so what have we been studying? Where we were studying last time, or the point we are at, the nice thing is about growth, human growth, spiritual growth, development of a human being. The nicest part about it is, can anyone tell me what is the nicest part about human growth or human development or spiritual growth or whatever it is you wish to call it? The best news you can have with reference to it is?
Doesn't matter where you are.
Great, fantastic. It doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter what your past is. It doesn't matter what you've done. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter how bad you are, how good you are. None of the past matters. How good you are, how bad you are, what are your circumstances. All of this only refers to the past. Growth refers to the future. So growth is possible from anywhere. like in education, right? To educate yourself, if you want to educate yourself, does it matter how educated you are? What is important is not how educated you are, but whether you wish to be educated. You could be Angutha Chap. You could have done nothing so far and want to be educated, you will become educated. You could be in MA, but you're whiling away your time and you will stay uneducated. I mean, in the sense you will have no further growth in education. So the best part about this, the most positive, the most optimistic part about it is we need not worry how good we are or how bad we are or what we have done or what we have not done. Today is a bright new day. It is the first day of our life. If we can samyak vyavasitah, if we can resolve correctly, if we can say that, okay, from today, I am going to try to do this better. I'm not going to repeat the mistakes of my past. I'm going to try and do it better today. Then today is the first day of the rest of our life. So he says, Api chet sutu charaha. Even if you're a very wicked person, bhajate mam ananya bhak. But you worship me ananya bhak. Ananya bhak, anya, other, ananya, no other. With that kind of bhakti, you worship me and me alone. What is me and me alone? You worship the goal of realization. Whenever a prophet speaks in the first person singular, referring to I, he is referring not to that Mr. Krishna or Mr. Muhammad or Mr. Christ or Mr. Buddha. They are all referring to that self within them, which they have identified, which they know they are. It's not the body mind. They all say, come to me. I will save you. Doesn't mean you go to that Mr. You go to that individuality. What it means is you go to the self within. The self that was within them, that divinity that was within them, is the same divinity that is within us. So go to the self. Since they have identified completely with the self, when they say I, they mean the self. If I have identified with my body, when I say I mean my body. So I say, I am hot or I am cold, I am tall or I am short, I am fair or I am dark. What do I mean when I say I? I mean the body, because the body is hot or cold, tall or short, fair or dark, beautiful or ugly. When I say I am any of these things, I'm using the I to mean the body. If I say I'm very happy, I'm unhappy, I am angry, I am jealous, I am loving, I am kind. Whenever I say any of these things, that I, when I use, I mean the mind. If I say I'm brilliant or I'm dull, I'm stupid or I'm smart, I'm using the I to mean the intellect. But when the prophet says, come to me, I will save you, he's using that same I to mean the self. He has found out he's not the body, mind, intellect, but the self within. So he says, come to me. But he doesn't mean what we think he means. We think he means the body, mind, intellect because we mean the body, mind, intellect when we say I. He has separated or segregated the I from the body, mind, intellect. He has understood his universality. And when he bids you to come to him, he only bids you to go to your own self. Seems so. So he says, if you bhajate mam ananya bhak, if your bhakti of me is ananya, means you're determined to find the self, you're determined to find the divinity, you're determined to purify yourself. It doesn't matter what you are to do. Even if you are the worst fellow, sadhureva samantavya, you will be considered a sadhu. Why? Samyak vyavasito sohisa. Because such a person has samyak vyavasitaha. He has resolved correctly. He's determined correctly. He has found his goal. He's found his ideal, and he's working towards it. Anybody who has found his goal or ideal will find it. We don't find our goal because we haven't found our goal. We have no goal. So what are we going to achieve? But a person who is determined to achieve whatever in the world he's determined to achieve, he achieves it. So it's exactly like saying, pointing to a plane at the airport and saying, that's Calcutta. And you point to a plane and say, that's Calcutta. What do you mean? That means if you have done all the necessary work, you have bought the ticket, you have boarded that plane, you have done whatever is needed, sitting in that plane is as good as being in Calcutta. Because after you board the plane, it's just a question of time. That's it. Now, how much time will that plane take to get to Calcutta?
Depends on how far the plane is from Calcutta.
Very good. Depends on where it's standing now. Is it standing in New York? Is it standing in Bombay? Is it standing at, I don't know, what? Somewhere in Orissa? In Bihar? Where is it? So that's only a question of time. But being in that plane is as good as being in Calcutta. It's only a question of time. So, very, very powerful verses for us to understand that it really doesn't matter where we are. What is important is, what happened again?
Where we're going.
Where
we are
we're going.
heading.
Where are you determined to go? As you know, they say in English also, even if you're on the right path and you just sit there, you'll still get run over. If you're not determined to go, that's the end. Are you determined? You say, I'm a very good person. So what? Are you sitting there or are you determined to reach the end of the journey? So he says, doesn't matter where you are. Just imagine that you have another 5 steps to take and then you'll enter Calcutta. But you don't take those 5 steps. Then how will you enter Calcutta? Isn't it? Is that simple? And somebody else in New York, but he's working. He may enter Calcutta before you. So it doesn't matter where you are. All it matters is what have you determined to do. So why? Because such a person, Shipram Bhavati Dharmatma. If you determined it, Shipram, quickly, Bhavati Dharmatma, becomes a Dharmatma, becomes a righteous, noble person. And then what? Shashwat, eternal, Shanti, Nigachati. He gets eternal Shanti. Eternal Shanti is the state of self-realization. Kaunteya, Pratijanihi. Oh Kaunteya, know this. Name Bhakta Pranashyati. My Bhakta, my devotee, is never destroyed. In other words, if you're on the right track, how can you get destroyed? This is true not only for becoming a better person, this is true for everything in life. If you're on the right track with reference to your finances, how can your finances get destroyed? If you're on the right track with reference to your health, how can your health get destroyed? If you're on the right track with reference to your relationship, how will your relationship get spoiled? If you're on the right track in terms of becoming the person you're capable of becoming, then how can you be destroyed? The whole thing is, are you on the right track? That's the only question. Sometimes we believe we're on the right track, but we're not. So, are you on the right track? That's the only thing you need to figure out. Figure it out and go on. Name Bhakta Pranashyati. If you are on the spiritual path, you can never be destroyed. Because think of what is destruction. How can you be destroyed? What aspect of you is going to be destroyed? What is destruction according to us? We can see it in various ways. Number one, you can see it as something in your life goes terribly wrong and you're destroyed. Now, if you're on the spiritual path, things don't go terribly wrong in your life. And why they don't go terribly wrong in your life is because if you have learned to think about the greater truths of life, how can you not understand the smaller truths? How is it possible? So things don't go terribly wrong in a spiritual person's life. You see any reasonably balanced person in this world, things don't go terribly wrong in their life. They're more or less okay. Haven't you seen people who are more or less mature, disciplined persons? Things are not terribly wrong with them. They're pretty okay with their lives. But yes, it is possible that by some strange fate or strange stroke of destiny or fate or luck or whatever you want to call it, something does go wrong. In which case, their mind is so stable that they're not affected. So firstly, nothing goes wrong. Largely speaking, they live very comfortable lives. Secondly, if something does go wrong, then their mind is not affected. Because the mind has achieved stability, has achieved, say, balance. So not affected so much. Yes, a bad thing has happened, but it's okay for them. So in no sense can you be destroyed. A person who has developed that ability to think properly, who has a strong intellect, his material life goes well, and he is happy with it. Which chapter are we in? Oh, slowly we'll come to very famous verse from the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15. Upadrashtanumanta cha bharta bhokta maheshwara. So he explains how he manifests in a human being's life. An upadrashta. Upadrashta means like a witness. The self within us is like a witness to our actions. When our actions are, if you're a what is it, Bin Laden or any of those type of people, what does the self do in your life? He's only an enlivener. He's a witness. Upadrashta. But when you turn yourself to the right path, when you live a life of unselfishness, serve others, he says Anumanta. Anumanta, Anumati, you know the word Anumati? A permitter. The self permits you, as it were. Little bit unselfishness if we practice, little bit we try to think of other people, little bit we work in the general welfare with the spirit of cooperative endeavor. The self manifests, as it were, as a Anumanta, as a permitter. What does that mean? That means that you seem to get support from everywhere. It seems to you that, oh, it's just easy to do things. Things happen. Haven't you noticed that whenever we work with the spirit of cooperative endeavor, we feel like, oh, things are happening. How is everybody? You're all working together. Things are all moving. Just now we started a new institute, and we're all amazed, isn't it? How much has happened? I mean, the institution has existed now for 5 weeks, and everybody is amazed at how much has happened because a little bit we work unselfishly. It's almost like all the powers of nature get together to help us. It becomes Anumanta. So first stage, he's Upadrashta. Second stage, he's Anumanta. Third stage, Upadrashtanumanta cha bharta. Bharta means a filler. When you work unselfishly, firstly, you will be permitted to do the action. You'll find everything is going easily and then becomes a bharta, a filler. You'll find things coming to you that you never expected coming to you. It's come to you. You become prosperous, you become successful. Then you become a bhokta. Bhokta means enjoyer. If you have got your prosperity out of the nobility of spirit and the quality of service, then you begin to enjoy the prosperity that you have got. You begin to enjoy every bit of it. You become the bhokta, the enjoyer. Otherwise, if you have got your prosperity out of selfishness, out of self-centeredness, then that same prosperity will eat you. You will not enjoy it. It will be a source of trouble. You know, you've seen that, right? When people have second homes and fancy cars and things like that. For the rest of the world, they're enjoyers, but for them, all this is stress. Imagine you're driving a brand new Merc on the road and somebody comes within 5 inches of it. What happens to the heart? It goes dug, 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 dug. What enjoyment are you getting out of that Mercedes? So when we live a life of unselfishness, whatever you get becomes a great source of joy. You enjoy it. You enjoy every bit of life, every morsel of food you enjoy, every trip you take, you enjoy. You become an enjoyer. So how does it manifest? First, upadrashta. Upadrashta numanta cha bharta bhokta maheshwara. Finally, you become Maheshwara. You become the self, the great Lord. Why have you become the great Lord? What is a Lord? That which is the enabler, that which makes everything happen. You become the enabler, the one who makes everything happen. You can take this either in the absolute sense or in the relative sense. If you take it in the absolute sense, you become the self, which is the ultimate enabler. Or if you take it in a relative sense, if you've lived a life of service and sacrifice, you become very powerful in that area where you have served. Like Mahatma Gandhi, he served our nation. So he became very powerful in the nation. What do you mean he became powerful? Did he become prime minister? No. Did he become president? No. And how was he powerful? When Mahatma Gandhi went on a fast, the government of India flew down to Sabarmati, wherever he was, to his ashram, and changed their policies. You and I go on a fast, our family will not change their policies. So it is a power. You say, I won't eat. If you do this, I won't eat. It's okay, Baba, we won't do it. Government of India has to fly down and plead with him. If this is not power, what is power? So, you can take Maheshwara in the absolute sense, which means you're a self-realized soul, you're an enlightened being, or you take it in the relative sense, means you're extremely powerful because of the service that you have done. Okay, so what he's talking about is,
Janki ji, I have a question.
yeah, Naim?
I always fail to understand this about Gandhiji fasting and how it affected so many people. How is that his fast stopped so much communal violence, or like you said, make governments change their policies? What was the connection?
Life of unselfishness. You live that life. Naim, you try from today. Just work for a higher cause. Single-pointed dedication, just how he told us. And you see, everybody, Naim, will be coming and doing whatever you say. You stop eating, everybody will do whatever you say. Isn't that true, really? You know, it happens even to the staff in the family. You know, in the old families and all, they used to have this staff who used to live with them and be with them, and you know, that staff, that chap or that lady has brought up this guy who is now the CEO of his company. But if that lady says, भैया आपने दूध नहीं पिया, आप सो नहीं सकते दूध पीने के बगैर. He is now 45 years old. He is running his company. But if that lady says he has to drink milk, then he has to drink milk. How does she get so much power over those people? It's just service. And who is she? She's just a servant in the family. But out of just plain service, you serve anybody, you will have power over that person.
Okay, Jan.
Try it 9. Or you'll see. You're a teacher, right? So
Right.
whichever student you have served, didn't you have power over that student? This is the power of service. And that is true power. You know,
See,
people
Janaki, I
ask,
wanted just to share something. I tried it once. I was having conflict in my family and I didn't eat for 3 days. I'm not saying I'm some realized soul or something, but they came around with, I started negotiating with me to break my fast. And so I really don't know what it was, but I don't know what prompted me to fast also, but I did it. And that's it.
yeah, I mean, your fast will only work to the extent that you have served before. If every day you start fasting now, nobody will pay any attention to your fast because you'll have exhausted the punya, they call it. You'll have exhausted the power you have got. So true power is power which you don't use. Just don't use it. And when you use it for the benefit of the others. And that is true power. So
Janki, there was this woman, Iram, I think her name was, from Manipur or something. And she fasted for 16 long years, but no result till 16 years. I don't know what the current situation is of some armed forces or something. So, I mean, isn't that really a long period to be fasting and not be recognized or, so just a little confusion when you said that.
don't forget, please, that though she's not eating through her mouth, she's on that nasal tube. So it is definitely a sacrifice. However, you can't say it was fasting because she is on the Ryle's tube and she would be dead if she had not eaten for 16 years. But the fact is, you're talking about her, no? So to the extent that she has done service, she has that much power. To whatever extent she has done it. Everybody, to the extent they have done service, will have that power. In your own, don't go to very, very big things. Look in your own building. Okay, all these cooperative societies exist. There'll be one person in the building that everybody tends to listen to. Who is that person? Isn't he the person who is most balanced and is most likely to help others? And there are people who help others out of that wanting to get power. I'm not talking about those. I'll tell you one gentleman I knew, very dear person, and he was in Delhi, and he retired from where he was working, and he went to live in his home in Delhi, in the colony. And in front of the colony, in front of the house, the road was not kept clean, and there was a garden opposite also, which was also not kept clean. So he recently retired, and gone to live in his final house. And he took upon the task of cleaning that road in front of his house. Just that's it. And then as he started keeping that, then the garden opposite was a dump yard. It was horrible. And then he started getting that cleaned as well. In the meanwhile, in that colony, there were those who are from Delhi will know who I'm talking about. In the meanwhile, the colony, whatever they are called, the president and all, there was a bitter war between the managing committee and some other thing. These two factions, they both wanted to have control over the colony. It was an elitist colony in Delhi, and these factions wanted to have control. And they used to quarrel and quarrel and quarrel. They were like Congress and BJP, constantly got loggerheads with each other. This gentleman, he cleaned the road in front of his house. He took that little park opposite and he started cleaning it. He got the municipality involved. He got, just worked and to keep it clean and make it beautiful. And then eventually these two quarreling factions who wanted to be the committee, they both came to him and said, you have to be the general secretary. And that's how he became general secretary of that colony. And then obviously everybody listened to him because he was the only man who actually worked for the welfare of the colony. So even in small things, it still have to be fantastic and big. But if you stick around with Vedanta long enough, then you get the pleasure of meeting these people who are service-oriented, genuinely service-oriented. In fact, it's one of the great perks of the being part of a group such as this, that you meet people who are noble, who are charitable, who are unselfish, and you see how much power they really have to get something done because they have lived a life of service. Anybody who's lived a life of service has that kind of power. So don't have to think of it as Mahatma Gandhi or Iran or anyone who we don't know. Look at the people you do know. Who are the people in your environment who have power? And why do they have power? You will notice how much they have done for others. And the more unselfishly they do it, like politicians also do it. So people go to them only with the intent of getting something. And when they don't have that power, then they're out. But there are some people who have power without the chair. Like Gandhi had power, no chair, power. Mother Teresa, if she wanted to speak to, who was that time, Clinton, wouldn't she get to speak to him? She had to pick up the phone and ask for him, that's it. You get to speak to him. Have you noticed these people are always with the most powerful people? It's an interesting thing that when we live a life of service, you become not a servant but a master. So he says, Name bhakta pranashyati. My devotee can never be destroyed. It can't be done. You know, the British caught hold of Joan of Arc and burnt her at the stake. Isn't it? Destroyed. But those fellows who destroyed her, nobody speaks of them. We speak and we admire and we are inspired by Joan of Arc. So who was really destroyed?
Janki ji, Pranay here. Just to add to your point, I mean, uh, I was reading a few weeks ago about a concept called as servant leadership. There is this very popular concept, and I mean, didn't make much sense at that time because it talks about how a manager should be working like a servant for his team, and that's how he will then start commanding respect. Didn't make much sense then, but I think now it makes sense when we are discussing this particular concept.
Yes. That you have to do it properly, also an important thing. You can't do it with one eye on becoming powerful because then you're not really serving. That genuineness is what counts. So if we really understand the need for service to begin with, the thing is that we need to serve not because we're going to become powerful, but because we are receiving so much. So our service is only is a gratitude we are giving. Even in a marriage, why did we get married? We get married because we have some needs, we have some demands. Now, luckily for us, some idiot in the world has agreed to fulfill those demands for us. Why would that person take on this job of fulfilling our demands? But luckily for us, they were foolish enough to accept us. Now they've accepted to do this, and bechara, they are doing it. Don't we owe them gratitude? But 9 out of 10 people only say what's wrong with their spouse. And they could be right. That spouse is like that. He is X or Y or Z or whatever it is, and could be right. Where is the gratitude? That I have some physical demands, I have some emotional demands, I have some intellectual demands, and lots of these demands my spouse is fulfilling. So when I see that, then I become service oriented. Then I genuinely wish to do something. That is service. Service cannot go backwards. Okay, what's the way to be powerful? Service, therefore do service. It can't go backwards. Service has to go as a recognition of how much I've got, and therefore what can I do in exchange? How can I serve? How can this benefit you? How can I be more interested in what happens to you than what happens to me? Can I train myself to be like that? Look at anyone, go to a doctor. Do you wish to go to a doctor who looks at you and sees, sometimes in the comics they show those dollar signs? So like dollar, they look at you and they see these dollar signs. Or do you wish to go to a doctor who's genuinely concerned about your well-being? And which doctor do you think will become more popular? Which doctor will bully his patients? And the reason he bullies his patients is because he's doing it for their welfare. The doctors, that's why, we used to touch the feet of doctors, of teachers, and these fellows can be really irritating, doctors, teachers, and all. They don't put up with our nonsense. They will tell you on your face something is wrong with you. They're bothered. And you go, and after they fired you, what do you do? Imagine if Swamiji fires us. What will we do after that? Will we go and fight with him? No, you go touch his feet. Because you understand the most basic thing, that he does something to you, he does it in your welfare. So, service as a genuine desire for your well-being. Or if you're in a corporation and you're working in that sense, then a genuine desire for this corporation to do well. And from that attitude, whatever action you take will be the right action. And since it is the right action, it will get all the good results. That's what he says, "Na me bhakta pranashyati." My bhakta cannot be destroyed. You work for a higher cause, can't be destroyed. Now, if you misunderstand it, you can be destroyed. So be careful in understanding it properly. These are very, very powerful concepts. And like any powerful thing, you can mess up pretty badly too. So understand it, and then it is your greatest tool for life. I am more concerned with something other than myself. Maybe you, maybe the organization, maybe the country, maybe humanity, maybe an art, maybe, I don't know, anything. But I have replaced the interest of myself with the interest in something else. Okay, Pranav, is that clear? So I don't know what you read in that book, but the idea is it should be a service that comes out of an awareness of receipts, out of a concern for the other person, and not as a tool for my own glorification. Because that doesn't work. Then you'll become like these politicians who do a lot for people, but the reason they do all that is because, and then what is the consequence of all that kind of behavior? You must see that. The consequence is that person can't sleep at night. He's agitated. He's bothered. He can't handle it if he sees a contender for the same position. What's the use of that life? Unselfishness gives us quality of life. If you choose not to be unselfish, you lose quality of life. Very simple life. These are laws. Nobody can change them. Not you, not I, not anybody. verse 32. Mam hi partha vyapashritya yepi syu papayonayah striyo vaishas tatha shudraha tepi yanti param gatim. Mam hi partha vyapashritya yepi syu papayonayah striyo vaishas tatha shudraha tepi yanti param gatim. Mam hi partha vyapashritya. Mam hi partha vyapashritya. Vyapashritya, ashritya. Ashritya, taking refuge in me, mam. Papayonahayah. Those who are of papayoni. Singular is papayoni. Plural is papayonayah. Those who have taken refuge in me. But they are of papayoni. They are from a sinful birth. Okay, now all women's libers, hold on. Who are these people of sinful birth? Striyaha, the women. Vaishya, the traders. Shudraha, the labor class. So everybody reads this verse and bap. And I'm sure everybody is going to attack me also because anyone reads this verse and they go ballistic. Let us understand carefully what he means. He said, even if you are a papayoni, who are a papayoni, he has described the women, the Vaishyas, the caste, Vaishyas and the Shudras. They too, yanti param gatam. They go to supreme goal. These people also realize. So please note, he says, even if you are a woman or a Vaishya or a Shudra, you can realize the self. So if you read the whole sentence, I hope it sounds optimistic. But of course, people read a lot into it and they say, why is he saying the Papayonis are Striya and Vaishya and Shudra? And they have a point. Why use these three? You could have used anything, right? You could have said some Rakshasa or something like that. Why did you say Stri and Vaishya and Shudra? But first, before we even go there, please, I hope you have all registered that even if you're a woman or a Vaishya or a Shudra, you are not barred from realization. Remember, it's following a line of thought that no matter where you are in life, you can realize the self. So first point that we should carefully understand what he has said is that, so what does he mean by this sentence? Basically, he's repeating and he's saying everybody can realize the self. Now, only question we can have is, why did he choose these as the Papayonis? For which we need to understand what is a Papayoni. Okay, to understand what is a Papayoni, we have to understand what is Papa. You all have already studied. What is Papa? Can anyone tell me?
Agitation.
Yes, what is a Pap? Pap is an action that comes back and agitates you. Pap or sin is that action that comes back to agitate you. Okay, so if you do an action and then you feel regret, such an action for you becomes papa, becomes a sin. Whoever regrets that action, for that person it is sin. Some people eat non-veg food. They are meat eaters. They feel nothing about it. They're fine. They're okay with killing and eating. For such people, that does not become sinful. But some people feel hugely disturbed at the idea of killing beings and eating them. They feel hugely disturbed. When such people eat meat, they have committed sin because they will feel horrible having eaten it. It will come back and agitate them. So there are some people who can do murders and they're okay with it. So it's not sin for them. But other people who think it's horrible to do such a thing, if they commit a murder, it'll be horrible. They won't be able to live with it. So depending on the individual and his particular nature or her particular nature, things will come back and agitate. So what is pap? Pap means performance of actions that will agitate you. That is why when you do pap, you're supposed to go to, where will you go if you do pap?
Hell.
To hell. So what is that state of hell? The state of horrible torture. Why? Who is torturing you? Your own mind is torturing you. Nobody else is there to torture you. Horrible, horrible. So when you do pap, you get narak. You go to hell. Pap are those actions which come back and agitate you. So what is the consequence? That you're a very agitated person. So papa yoni, what is yoni? Yoni means womb. So what's a papa yoni? You are in a position where you are going to be agitated. What are these positions in which you're going to be agitated? There are two positions in which you will get agitated. One is that you are an attached person. Attached people are represented by striya, women. Because women by nature, the feminine quality is of being conservative, of being rooted. The masculine quality, purushatva, is of exploratory. So, early man, the woman stayed home, looked and was involved with child rearing. And the men went out exploring, maybe the hunt and exploring new territory. And they were those who go outside. Even today, you'll find the women hold the keys of the house, all the cupboard keys and everything, all the keys. So when you're conservative, you're rooted. You're exploratory, you're going out. So in representation of this particular quality, he uses the word stri. In other words, what we must read it as is attached. Now, what we have to understand is these are not qualities of a physical body, they're qualities of the mind. So a man may be extremely attached, or a woman, a physical man or a physical woman. Either of them may be attached and either of them may be exploratory. Like, the word Amazon women, for instance. They were exploratory. They go out, they want to beat up guys and, conquer stuff and all. So you wouldn't call them stri in the way he's using the term. Or Rani of Jhansi. She will go out and fight. Right? But there are some men who will sit at home and be very frightened and say, no, Baba, don't do this, don't do that, don't take this risk, don't do this. Attached. So what is the consequence of being attached? The consequence of being attached is one gets very agitated. So Papa Yoni means those people who are attached. And what is Vaishya and Shudra? The other Papa Yoni. Why are they Papa Yoni? Because when you are selfish, self-centered, you will be agitated. That's the law. Can't change it. So now why Vaishya and Shudra? Now Pranay for you and for where is our other friend? He seems to have gone, is it? Too much philosophy for one day. Where was it? Mayank, right? What was his name? So, Pranay, I don't know if you are familiar with this. I think the rest of the class may know that every human being is made of 3 gunas. They are known as tamas, rajas, and sattva. Tamas is the lowest guna of ignorance, indolence, inertia. You don't do anything. And the kind of activity you do is like taking shortcuts in life. In the second state is the state of rajas. Rajas is the state of desire, agitation, competition, stress. You're doing a lot and you're very stressed out of it. And the third one is sattva, which is the state of poise, equanimity, high productivity, clarity, purity. All this is sattva. So when you have got your personality is such that you've got very high sattvic qualities, you are known as a Brahmin. When you have a lot of rajas in you, then you're a Kshatriya. When your rajas and your tamas equalize, you become what is known as a Vaishya. So a Brahmin lives a life of complete service because his intellect is too vast to be petty about things. He's a pure person because he doesn't see unselfishness as something to develop. It is just, I mean, he can't conceive any other way of living other than service. So, even traditionally, teachers didn't charge, doctors didn't charge. They didn't understand what it is. They did the best for you when you were supposed to, if you had any gratitude, you would do the best back for them. But they just, it's just served. And they were very highly respected. Then they started, and doctors and all, they started joining medical college because they thought they'll do very well as doctors. And then what happened? Nowadays, people sue doctors. The whole thing has turned. So, Sattvic people just live a life of service and sacrifice. And why do they live a life of service and sacrifice? Out of clarity of thought. They don't understand only what do you mean by this other life. They're not able to comprehend it. Why? Because they're so clear in their understanding of life and how life functions. So they just live like that. So obviously, Sattvic people are very calm, very, very blissful in life. They're always happy. Then come the predominantly Rajasic types. They are like the Rajas and the Maharajas. They also lived a life of service, but there was some addition of ego into it. So these people, right? They're extremely chivalrous and graceful, and high degree of rajas is a very attractive thing because such people will live a very dynamic life, which will like an Arjuna. These kind of people, Karna, Arjuna, everybody looks up to them because they live that life. They're extremely dynamic, high achievers, and their achievement was not all about mujhe kya milega, but service. Maybe, I don't know, just randomly I'm saying maybe a JRD Tata would maybe be somebody like that. Lived a life of service, went out and did stuff and benefited so many people. It's random, okay? I don't know all this. I'm just trying to give you a concept. And then come the traders. Now, what's happening with the trader? The trader is sitting at his store and he understands only, aap mujhe 5 rupees do, main aapko 5 rupees ki cheezein deta hu. So this whole concept of living life of service goes away when you become a business person, in the sense of that trader. I give you slightly less than what you give me, and that's my profit. So that the concept is now of making use. And Shudra, of course, the concept is how little can I do for you? That is their concept. Because why? Out of laziness. So Vaishyas is tamas and rajas are sort of balanced, and Shudra is it's predominantly tamasic. Nothing to do with the family you were born in. Please, I say this in every class. I don't know whether everybody has still registered it. Your caste is not dependent on your father's caste or your grandfather's caste. Your caste is individual and personal to yourself. So coming back to what he's saying in this verse, 3 types of people are papa yoni. Those who are attached, those whose tamas and rajas are equal. Means your rajas has also come down quite a bit, and of course the tamasic. So these people are papa yoni, means they will be agitated in life. But he's saying it doesn't matter. That's what he's saying. It doesn't matter who you are or what you are. You can Te pi yanti param gatim. Te api yanti. They also will go. Where? Param gatim. To the highest abode. So it's basically continuing the idea that don't worry about who you are. Worry about where you're headed. Don't say, oh, I'm so bad. I'm so bad. He's not concerned with whether you're bad or not. He's concerned with what are you doing today to take a step forward. So that matters in life, isn't it? However bad anything is, can I do one thing to make it 1% better, 2% better? So why don't I do that? It's so bad, it's so bad, it's so bad. Okay, it's so bad. I understand it's so bad, but can we take one step forward? And maybe if we take one step forward, maybe we'll be able to take one more step forward. Let's not worry about what we can't do. Let's see what we can do and do it. I can't do this. I can't be as good as Gandhi. I can't do this. I can't be so unselfish. You can't be so unselfish. Never mind. Can you do one more thing? One service thing today? Just a little bit better than I was yesterday. Little struggle to do something. How can such a person ever be destroyed? Last verse. This verse says you will reach realization. And that's a saying also that I think the Japanese have. The longest journey begins with a single step. Take one step forward. Just one step. Commit yourself to that one step. And you're through. You keep committing yourself to one step. Our journey of 1,000 steps is done. Okay. So that's
Chankiji, quick
Yeah.
question if I may. So
Mhm.
can we understand this broadly as anyone whose mind-led is of sinful birth?
Yes, of course. That is for the striya attached. But that is one particular type of classification. The other type of classification is tamas rajas sattva. So he's done both. He just wants to be completely clear about what he's saying. So basically, the kind of thoughts human beings can have can be classified in either mind and intellect or in tamas rajas sattva. So he's done both classifications. Because if you say only striya, then people will have some problem. If you say only this, then they won't understand. So he's done it both.
Okay, thank you.